Well, welcome back. We're going back to our ordinance action or ordinance item 36, or sorry, 43. 43.
What?
I'm back.
43.
Ordinance 43, Division of Cannabis Control. There's one other typo in here, a clerical error that was found by one of staff, Miss Moss Lewis. Can you address that clerical error very quickly?
Yes, I thank the Agricultural Commissioner Jesse Feller for this. This is 179509. Well, go to 1795-100 and then go up 2 paragraphs. It's the FF. And the second sentence, the is misspelled, so we need to remove that G.
That's about the sum of it, correct?
What was that?
That's about the sum of it, correct?
That's the only additional clerical error I am aware of, yes.
Okay, with that, we will go to public comment.
And this is public comment on
You've been patient.
what we've just done, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I guess I wanted to suggest that, in fact, what you've done so far, I believe, will go a long ways to actually supporting this industry in the county, which ultimately will lead to increased revenue in the county and more sustainability of the industry and the county's economic infrastructure. That being said, my earlier open comment about having the people in Texas not being able to buy a vehicle from Texas or built in Texas without it being shipped out of state and then back into state because of law is similar to where we are right now. I'd like to also ask that we perhaps look at expanding to include other licenses currently available by the state but are not available in the county. Excuse me. I know we are going to address testing, but in addition to testing, the processing as well as nursery licenses are two also very important licenses that would more fill out the business opportunities and employment opportunities allowed by this industry. Currently, there's relatively few, I would say, outside job opportunities available. Now, when we bring in testing and we bring in distribution, those will obviously allow for employment in the industry by non-agricultural people. In addition, nursery is something, if you know, in any agricultural business, you have to buy grapevines to grow grapes, et cetera, et cetera. And right now, the commercial growers are going outside of our county to buy their plants from a nursery and then having to ship them all in. If there was that industry here, that would be another available opportunity for both business and economic growth and employment, as well as processing is obvious. But I noticed the key exemption would be a nursery license. Thank you.
Thank you. Currently, just so you know, processing and nursery license are allowed from our prior ordinance and would continue with this ordinance.
They are currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Further public comment?
Yes, I have 2 public comments online. If you'd like to make your public comment, please do so now. Carl, can you hear us?
Possibly we could go for the second raised hand until we can iron out the issue with the first.
Vicki, if you'd like to make your comment, go ahead.
Yes, hi.
We can hear you.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is Vicki Ranke, and I'm speaking on behalf of Crackham. And each of you received a letter expressing our questions and concerns. So I have listened to the morning presentation, and I'd like to highlight some of those concerns we had. So this is the first time that you, the Board of Supervisors, had an open discussion of the proposed ordinance. And this is a huge change to the 1795 ordinance and should require more public review before any approval. I understand that you did direct the planning department to put this proposal directly to the Planning Commission for their recommendations before it came to you. But remember, the Planning Commission is not an elected body, you are. And at their April 8th Planning Commission meeting, the commissioners recommended to the planning director to prepare an additional item to the 1795 ordinance to allow distribution centers on individual grow sites. This was not directed by you, but an unelected body of commissioners. Again, this is the first time you have reviewed this proposal. And the new proposed ordinance now includes a limited distribution permit, which the public deserves a separate hearing on. The limited distribution is a new program to the marijuana ordinance. The industry change was never studied in the EIR for any environmental impacts, and Commissioner Wooster was correct, even though the other commissioners decided to let it pass. And then we sent you a list of questions, and a few of them several of them haven't been answered, but here are some that need answers. What is the cost to implement the program in the county? How much additional money will the county receive from Measure G? Would these dollars be realized even if out-of-county distribution is used? And who will oversee the new program? Do we have the staff to do this? And what county resources are needed to regulate limited distribution and testing? And will this bring more crime since the marijuana will be stored and distributed on site? You know, distribution centers were designed by the Cal Cannabis program under track and trace system, which we should be using here in Calaveras County, but I never hear that term. So make sure they did it to make sure that marijuana grown was distributed to licensed retailers and to keep it out of the illegal markets. So I'm not sure if anybody's overlooking to see that that's happening. So we do encourage you to not approve this today, but to bring this back for further review and hopefully a study session. This is too big of a change to just pass it through. And I'm sure the reason is, from what I understood in the Planning Commission, is that they want to rush it through to satisfy the marijuana growers, who are a small percentage of our
Thank
residents.
you, Ms. Ranke.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Jennifer, if you'd like to make your comment now, you may do so.
Good afternoon, this is Jennifer Smith. Been following along. I'm really, I think the changes proposed are in line with the goals and the intention of maintaining and sustaining a cannabis industry. As I've mentioned before, we are one of the only counties that has cultivation in no way to distribute our product, and I think that we will be more successful as individual farmers and as a collective and marketing standpoint when we're able to push our product out to retail rather than relying on people to come and drive past other licensed facilities and come all the way up to Calaveras. I think this is going to be a huge benefit, and will also create more jobs for the county, as well as the increased taxes. I'm concerned with the M1, M2, M4 zoning simply because it's so limited, and that does limit the other industries that can come in. But at the same time, I understand and can appreciate dropping the C2. I do think that if we could keep the C2 in transport only, that would be a benefit. Again, these are licenses that are not holding or storing product. They are simply transporting it. Therefore, it's of minimal risk. I'd like to also talk about 8B, the same owner, different parcels, being able to utilize one distribution license on one of their parcels. This is actually something that does affect me. I have farms in 2 different locations, in 2 different districts, and I would prefer to distribute my product from one of my locations rather than both. And as far as an impact to the roads or environmental impacts, it would be the same impacts regardless. I'm driving between the farms every day as it is, so it would make sense that I could also transport and deliver all of my product to one central location for distribution. So I would appreciate some additional conversation and input and consideration on that concern. Other than that, I think this is a positive direction for the county and will help all of us in terms of creating that sustainable industry we all strive for. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Further public comment?
The caller that was on there is no longer there, so there's no further comment.
Okay, no further comment at this time. Bring it back. Oh, here we go. Mr. Stoughton?
I'm gone there for a minute, folks.
Okay.
Technology.
Well, we can hear you now.
You guys have a problem with technology. Okay, here we go. What I'd like to comment is on this agenda item as it was set up and as it was presented. Mr. Whalen, you have done board, please tell Mr. Whalen that he has done a wonderful job with this agenda item, and that I recommend that he go over and help Kathleen Delano with her agenda items. His is complete, and she needs to see what a complete agenda item looks like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back.
Further public comment? With that, I'll bring it back to the board. At this time, I can close the public, or actually, Mr. Whalen, do you have any answers for the public comments?
Well, yes, sir. Just in short, to respond to Ms. Ranke, I respect your views. There is a couple of issues. I guess it may be more of a wording type issue, but with distribution centers, I made some slides and I took some effort to explain, what the limited distributor would do is essentially be a very limited type 11. It's designed to integrate with existing premises. They would only serve that permittee. So it's a much restricted. In fact, we drew an analogy between having a bank and a lockbox, because banks serve multiple customers, multiple clients. The limited distributor is designed to serve one permittee. It's essentially them and their canopy. So they're very different things. With respect to crime, you could add traffic to that. Based on our study, if I haven't seen, if I had to give my estimation of what this would look like, it would be no impact on that, because actually you're able to move product out faster. The way I've heard described, and I agree with, is that if our local industry has their own distribution licensees accessible to them, they're able to essentially distribute faster instead of the logistical hurdles of trying to identify somebody out of county and wait for them to be available and to transport the product back and forth to that county seems to me to lessen that risk. That's essentially what I found in looking into this. Track and trace is utilized by all California cannabis licensees. There are very stringent requirements, especially with distribution and how they interact with track and trace. It's probably the largest part of what they do. Being able to enter in detailed manifests showing exactly what they're moving, exactly what's in it, when it happens, the chain of custody controls in place. So that's all an important part of the current cannabis industry and will continue to be. We also presented that the proposed amendments to 1795 will include additional requirements that they carry that manifest with them, be prepared to present it to law enforcement should they be stopped, and keep those records available to us. So there are a lot of controls in place, and I just wanted to be able to express that.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen. With that, I'll close the public. No,
Just have a point of
no,
clarification.
no.
Okay, well, you
had your-
stated something, and I wasn't clear. I just have a question on that.
Thank you. The proper time for speaking is during public comment, please.
Okay, I thought we had done that, so,
Yeah.
all right.
With that, thank you, Mr. Whalen. I'm going to close the public hearing now and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Whalen, on the cost, if I understood you correctly, you said you would have to do a cost analysis to determine what the cost would be to implement these. And in terms of revenue, I thought I heard you say there's a 5% tax. Could you please clarify, please?
Yes, ma'am. So yes, this would be a fee-funded permit process, just like our other current permit types that we allow are. We're a fee-funded department. I would be, together with staff, putting together a fee study. Our objective would be to bring it back sometime within the 30 days after adoption, if that is the inclination of the board today. And possibly by July 27th, although that will depend on our staff's resources as well as county council. With respect to the revenue, it would be general fund revenue. It would be based on gross receipts, a 5% gross receipts tax that would go to the general fund.
Thank you. Is there further questions, Ms. Callaway? Does that answer your
No.
questions?
Yeah, well, that was questions that Ms. Renicky had too.
And it's, as an incidental observation, Supervisor Callaway, that also is one of the benefits of what we're proposing today, is that right now the county is losing revenue to outside counties that would otherwise be kept in our county. And so that's one of the things that this would help remedy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. With that, I have a majority of the discussion here in bullet points. Unless someone wants to add something to this, I'm going to read them out so that you know what I'm going to be polling the board on. And these are in addition to the clerical errors that were found, that were brought up. I assume we all want to make those clerical errors right. Let's say there's three polls I'll do on striking from C2. Type 13 transport only distribution, a separate one for type 11 general distribution, and a separate one for testing when it comes to C2. So I'll poll the board 3 times on that. Cap on general distribution sites, 3 to 5, pick a number, so.
Is that 11 or 13?
That's the type 11 general distribution only. Thank you, Ms. Callaway, for the clarification. And the first poll will be like, if yes, should cap be based on first come, first serve, with the first complete application submitted to DCC being the first to be considered. And then the second bullet point was something I brought up briefly. Should DCC be directed to require evidence of deed or lease showing an existing ownership interest or leasehold before a general distribution permit application is deemed complete, so that applicants who haven't yet secured a conforming premises don't hold up the other legitimate applications. And then should someone who qualifies for a limited distribution permit on their existing cannabis premises be allowed to also distribute between their own other cannabis premises within the county without needing to get a separate limited distribution permit for each site? So that's the total of the ones I have. If there's anything I missed, please speak up as a board member. Mr. Toffenelli, I could pull the board on that, but I don't think there's a legitimate, clear way to just separate it by district that I know of. Can you explain one to me?
I represent District 1. I'm requesting the board.
To pull on District 1?
Yeah.
I can still pull the board on that. With that, are we ready? Shall I proceed unless there's further comment? Thank you for the addition, Mr. Toffenelli. So first I'll start with the strike from C2. Type 13, transport only distribution. Should we strike that from C2? Ms. Fullendorf? So you're not in favor of striking it, is what you say? Yeah. Okay, Mr. Garamendi,
Strike everything from C2.
can you please,
Strike everything from C2.
all three?
Yeah.
I am also all three. Ms. Callaway?
No.
No? Mr. Toffenelli?
Yes.
If you're talking, it depends on which one you're talking about.
Okay.
All three.
All three? Mr. Toffenelli, all three from
All
C2?
three.
Ms. Fullendorf? No. No on all three? Okay. And Ms. Callaway, you can choose one of the, or
No
all,
on type 13, yes on type 11.
and no on that, on testing?
Testing, no.
Okay. We have a consensus on all three from C2. Sure. Yeah. Oh, wait. I lost my list here. Sorry. So all three from C2. Cap on general distribution sites of 3 to 5. I'm going to pick a number of 5 and we'll start on that. Ms. Fullendorf? No. Mr. Garamendi?
5.
Ben Stopper's a 5. Ms. Callaway?
No restriction.
Mr. Toffenelli?
5.
5. So we have a cap of 5. So with this, yes, first serve with the first complete application submitted to DCC being the first to be considered. Ms. Fullendorf? No. All right.
I just want to clarify.
Can you turn here?
Yes, sir. I just want to clarify, so a complete application, meaning they've got the dirt, they've got everything in line.
Right.
Just because we don't want to.
Yeah, that's what I say.
I don't want people putting a tag on.
I would put this whole thing in here, should DCC be directed to require evidence of deed or lease? You know, I'm gonna put that in just the whole thing right now. And then, a general distribution permit application is deemed complete. So that applicants who haven't yet secured or conforming premises don't hold up the legitimate applications. Should someone who qualifies for a limited distribution, that's a separate one. So I would say in that complete for the cap on the 5. Are you a yes? I'm a yes. Ms. Callaway?
No.
Mr. Toffenelli?
Yes.
So we have our cap and how we're going to be able to choose those 5 by first come, first served with the suggested requirements. The last one is, should someone who qualifies for a limited distribution permit on their existing cannabis premises be allowed to also distribute between their own other cannabis premises within the county without needing to get a separate limited distribution permit for each site? Ms. Fullendorf? No?
No.
That's the one you were arguing for.
I know, but you turn the mic.
I need clarification
So
on
you're
that.
no?
I mean,
That's the one, Ms. Callaway, where we are allowing one site to be able to move all the same person's distribution product
Multiple sites.
So
from
is it
multiple
by,
sites.
is it by site or is it by owner?
It's by ownership. That's what I said when I read the thing out inside. The same owner or applicant. Yeah. So yes, it is by the same applicant or owner.
So, like Ms. Smith talked about, she has sites in 2 or 3 with locations. She can be a distributor to all 3 locations. For
From
all
a-
3, excuse me, a distributor. But what she also said is that she wanted to be able to move the product from site 2 to site 1 and site 3 to site 1.
Yes. That is what we're asking about right now. To allow that. So full endorse it now?
I guess it goes back to, is that going to limit the permit applications?
No.
You just capped it at 5.
No,
This
that's
is
not,
for
that's limited. We're talking general type 11 as opposed to limited type 11. Two different conversations.
Limited is off-site, they can go to the building, M1, M4.
No,
No,
that's
no,
general.
that's not
Okay.
limited,
That's
that's
Then-
general. That's
and-
general.
General,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Supervisor Tuffanelli, could you turn your mic on? And could everyone who speaks turn their mics on?
Yeah, sorry,
We're
I
having a bit of trouble.
forgot. Yes, if it's gonna be between sites, but my concern still remains the same, is that locations like that are gonna dictate the permit. I still am not, I don't know, it just still isn't, but that's fine, yeah, you can change it to that language, I'll support that.
Is there a specific question you would like answered from before you make your vote?
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Garamendi?
Yes?
I'm a yes. Ms. Callaway?
Yes.
Mr. Toffanelli?
no.
Okay. So that's a yes. Is there other changes other than what I have just brought up that, oh yeah, Mr. Toffanelli did ask for me to pull the board on, how should we put it, Mr. Toffanelli? None go in District 1?
Yeah.
Ms. Mullendorf?
No.
Mr. Garamendi?
If the proposal will accept the amendment that we get to split up his tax revenue. I'm joking. No, sorry. Gary's not joking.
No. Ms. Callaway?
No.
Mr. Toffanelli?
Yes.
Okay. That's a no.
Is that 4 to 1?
Yeah.
Supervisor Stopper, would the board be willing to delegate to staff the drafting of those changes? I have already provided you with some draft language that memorializes all of this.
Yeah, I would like to direct staff to do that. Could you give everyone a basic view of what you're thinking on that right now and what you provided me so that we hear it technically?
Sure. So for 1795-060F, we would add a subsection 9 that would read, no more than 5 general distribution permits will be issued by the county at any one time. Applications will be processed on a first-come, first-served basis pursuant to an application process developed by the Division of Cannabis Control.
Sounds good to me.
And you had already directed Cannabis Control to make sure that the application is complete, so I don't think we need to
Right.
actually put that in the ordinance.
I agree. It
And
was
then
in the ordinance.
The chart would, on, what, Mr. Whalen, do you remember what section of 1795 has the chart for the distribution and testing?
Sub F. Yeah.
Okay, so in the chart, we would simply be removing C2 as a permissible zone in any of the additional activities that we're going to be permitting. So all of the lines that say C2 would be gone.
Reference to C2 within those lines. Yeah.
And then under 17.95, and then of course I forgot this section. Let me go, Mr. Whalen, where is the application requirements for a testing or distribution? It's
F060.
060. Okay, so in there, I was going to add, I'm losing track of my documents, hold on one second.
It's,
Okay, so under 8, we would add a subsection D. So 8 says a limited distributor permit may be issued on parcel zone A1, AP, GF, U, RA, and CP only under the following circumstances. There are 3 circumstances listed so far. We would be adding subsection D, which will say, notwithstanding subsections A and B, if a limited distributor has permits for additional cannabis cultivation sites in the county, the limited distributor may engage in limited distribution activities between all of his or her sites under a single limited distribution permit. And just to clarify, for Supervisor Follendorf, what this would mean is that in the cultivation zones, a grower would be able to have a distribution premises on one of their grow sites. They don't have to have the premises on all of their grow sites, and they can conduct their limited distribution activities on one of their grow sites for all of the grow sites they have a permit for in the county. So it just consolidates those activities on a single site so that they don't have to have 2 additional unnecessary permits. And I think is that it? I think that's it.
I think that covers it in a nutshell. Ms. Callaway? Are any board members opposed to that general change in language? Okay. With that, Mr. Toffenelli? So, okay. With that, I'll bring it back to us. I'll entertain a motion as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Passes on a 4-1 vote of the board. It's clear, Ms. Moss?
Yes, I think we've got it.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to regular agenda item 44, resolution, human resources, adopt a resolution formally recognizing the Calaveras Supervisors Union as the exclusive recognized employee organization for employees who are identified as non-confidential supervisors. Ms. Hawkins.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Chair. Judy Hawkins, Human Resources and Risk Management. I am bringing before you today a resolution formally recognizing the Calaveras Supervisors Union. This union is being established by the Calaveras Unrepresented Association. And we have followed all of the steps and process laid out by the county's employer-employee relations resolution. We had the cards or petition certified by the state mediation and conciliation services. And so everything is in order, and so now I just need the members of the board to formally recognize them.
Board questions or comments? Public comment.
Yes, I do have one public comment. Carl, if you'd like to make your comment now, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. I support all unions, or most unions, I should say. And this is no exception. The right to organize is very important in our country. I think Clarence Valro defended unions to a great extent, and what his philosophy was on this is the working man does not have an equal say as to their conditions and their lot in life, as opposed to the management or those that hold power. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you.
We have an additional public comment as well.
Thank you. Yes, a follow-up comment, please.
You can go ahead and make your public comment now.
Hi, this is Elena Belli. I'm a manager with Health and Human Services. I'm calling in for item number 44 and number 45. I'm the interim treasurer for the Calaveras Unrepresented Management. And we just want to say thank you for recognizing this union group that hasn't been recognized before. And we look forward to working with the Board of Supervisors and HR and the county. Thank you.
There are no further public comments.
Thank you. Bring that back to the board. I'll entertain a motion.
No, I have a question first.
Yes, Ms. Callaway.
Ms. Hawkins, and maybe Ms. Turner, I have a concern with the deputy clerk of the board being included in this. The clerk of the board is not considered a confidential position, and now we have the deputy clerk who isn't. So on the clerk, so are they or aren't they?
And so the clerk of the board is an appointed position, and so she is not included in the union because it is an appointed position.
We're talking Rebecca Turner, right?
Yes. The deputy clerk of the board, this was considered in the supervisory group and is not a confidential position, and so is a part of the union. And I do want to make sure that when we talk about confidential positions, it's not a case of they have paperwork that has to be confidential, can't be shared. It's that they can have information or be involved in union negotiations. And so such positions in admin and county council and human resources, those are confidential positions where this position is not considered confidential.
I disagree. I think it should be, but that's my 2 cents.
Other board questions or comments to that point? With that, Mr. Toffenelli.
I'll move this item, Mr. Chair,
Thank you. In its entirety?
in its entirety.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Or second.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. I think, don't go far.
Nope.
Item 44.
All the last items are mine.
45 now, my apologies. Item 45, resolution, human resources, adopt a resolution formally recognizing the Calaveras Management Union as the exclusive recognized employee organization for employees who are identified as non-confidential management and professionals. Ms. Hawkins.
So a similar situation as our Calaveras Supervisors Union. We went through the same process with the management union. We did go through a little bit more negotiations regarding the positions, and we did agree to allow the professional employees within the management union instead of having a separate union with just a few classifications in it. And so we have gone through all of our due diligence, and now we are asking the board to formally recognize the Calaveras Management Union.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Any board questions? Ms. Callaway? We'll go to public comment.
We do have one public comment. You can go ahead and make your comment now.
Here we are again.
Here we are.
Thank you, Judy Hawkins, for bringing this forward. I'm a fan of unions. Right now, there is a real estate transaction that I'm participating in with the union, and that had come from experience with that union. I have sat on boards. I'm very grateful to Calaveras County for supporting unions. With that, thank you. And turn it back to you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
No further public comment.
With that, I'll bring it back to the board. Providing there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move this item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Action item, Human Resources. Introduce, waive first reading, authorize summary publication of an ordinance adopting salary changes for certain elected officials. Ms. Hawkins.
Members of the board, Judy Hawkins, Human Resources and Risk Management. So the item that you have before you today is I am bringing back to you from the conversation that we had during the budget hearings regarding the elected officials. So our assessor, auditor, controller, clerk recorder, and treasurer tax collector. This has been a conversation that the county has been having for several years regarding their salaries being so low and so compacted with their employees as they are getting increases due to union increases. And so I am bringing back before you the first reading of the ordinance requesting the increase that we discussed at the budget hearings, which was a 24% increase to their salaries, which is changing our classifications are listed by hourly rate. And so it's going from $54.87 to $68.15. And we did point out in our staff report that by changing the elected officials' salary, it will impact the board's salary, since by resolution 2908, I believe it is, your salaries are made up, it's 50% of the average of the assessor, auditor, controller, clerk recorder, treasurer, tax collector, and sheriff.
Thank you. Is there anything further, Ms. Hawkins?
And I think that's it.
I've been talked to. Is there a reason we didn't specifically include the sheriff or the DA inside this change?
So in trying to, because we are currently working on a class and comp study, they have received increases since these four electeds, and their salary is not out of line as much as these four. I'm not saying that their salaries don't need to be adjusted, but I do think we need to look at the class and comp study and then adjust it as a whole. These four officials, we have been having these conversations for years, and with the upcoming elections, there are some big impacts if we do not make these changes.
Okay, further board questions?
I have a comment. Judy is correct, and the ordinance is ordinance 2908, and it was adopted by the board on December 11, 2006, and it was voted on 5-0, and it basically says to increase the board salary to 50% of the average between the auditor, controller, treasurer, tax collector, assessor, clerk, recorder, and sheriff, effective the first payroll after the effective date of the ordinance. So, in other words, we have been having these conversations for a number of years about the 4 positions that are included here that are elected officials, and their rate of pay, their salary as compared to neighboring counties, and we've brought this forward basically on a 4-1 vote last week or the week before, based on that, and compensating them because they're out of line. And Judy's correct that their employees are gaining on them, and the amount of work and responsibilities that they have would warrant it. So it's not just it's not voting on us getting a raise, it's voting on them getting a raise, because there's an ordinance, it reflects back on us. I think that's very important to point out. And then again, as I said last time, there's nothing in writing here that says that we have to accept the raise. We can write a letter to Judy and put it in our file that says, at this date, we don't want to accept this, or I don't want to accept this raise until we get down through the path of settling contracts with the employees or doing the comp study or what have you. So there's nothing binding us if we don't choose to, as individuals, to accept this. I think that's important that that's out there.
Further board comments? With that, I'll give the electeds that are affected the chance to comment if they so choose. Also, any other staff, and then we'll go to public comment.
I don't have any electeds that are raising their hand at this point.
Okay, we'll go to public comment.
I have one public comment, and they can go ahead and make their comment now.
Okay, prima donnas, here we go. If you look at the number of votes cast for these elected officials, it's far fewer than board of supervisors, far fewer than the governor's race in the county, far fewer than any other races. And that's because these people no longer possess a loyal following, a base. They no longer comment on issues that are not directly related to their departments. It's basically obsolete positions. They should be brought in to a county administrative office that it's a finance office. It's not, with only offices that are required by statute remaining. You're living in 1879. You're not living in 2021 when it comes to this. And on that subject, on the subject of these raises as well, God forbid that your employees catch up with you when it comes to pay. You're in Calaveras County. Nobody makes a lot of money in Calaveras County. So, and as far as the board getting raises, I don't really, that's only for Mr. John Garamendi. He's the only one without a second income here, or adequate second income here. He's the only one that doesn't buy lunch for the other supervisors when he goes out to lunch with them. He's the only one begging for it here. I suggest that we not raise anybody's pay at this time. reflects badly, and it's not necessary, and it just shows an antiquated thought. Thank you.
Further public comment?
There is no further public comment at this time.
Thank you, Robin. With that, does staff have any answers for the comments made by public? If not, I'll move on. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll introduce and waive first reading and authorize publication of the ordinance with the salary changes for certain elected officials.
Do we have a second? I was about to let it die. You guys can argue over it, I'll let it die. That's the second by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Aye, as a no. Passes on a 4-1 vote of the board.
Thank you.
Item 47, resolution, human resources. Adopt a resolution authorizing changes to the position control list and adopting new job descriptions effective July 3rd, 2021 for the fiscal year 2021/22 recommended budget. Make note that the recommended changes for the assessor's office are not included in this, so I'll be remaining. With that, Judy.
Yes, members of the board. So I'm bringing before you the resolution making the changes to the position control list. So that's what I get for taking lunch. I can't talk today. Human Resources is responsible for the position control list. And so all the changes that we discussed during the budget hearings, I am bringing back before you to be adopted. You are correct, Chair Stopper. We do not have the assessors' positions on this list. We are bringing those. I am optimistic that the county and SEIU can come to an agreement on the job descriptions, and we will be bringing those items back on July 13th. We also at that time will be bringing back approval for the assistant county administrative officer and program coordinator for the library. Those positions, we still have changes to make on the job descriptions. The positions, I'd like to point out that we did not discuss during the budget hearings were the positions that we have to adjust due to minimum wage changes. And I apologize, I cut you off. Did you?
I was just saying, with those ones excluded that come before us July 13th, do we have a possible maximum cost on what those could be as proposed so that we could know what the total number may be while making the decision today? Not that it may matter to every supervisor, but it would be transparent in my mind.
So CAO Von Lotta, I believe, could speak to the, she has the numbers for the assessor's office, but I believe it was around 65,000 was the ballpark for that one. I do apologize. I'm trying to pull up really quick.
I'm confirming now, but it was $64,000 and just over $64,000, I believe. Actually, I can't pull it up now because I can't access my hard drive. Judy, can you pull that or?
It's real close to that from what I recall. So do we know what the difference on the librarian suggestion is?
And so the second, I'm trying, and the difference for the library I believe, uh, thir- 13,000? That may be not,
So with the total of somewhere in the vicinity of 77,000 is pretty close estimate on what max could, if we approve that in July, on top of what we're talking about today. Oh. Thank you, Susan. My apologies, Ms. Hawkins already placed that. I'll repeat that. A total of $77,000 between those positions could possibly be the amount that would be how much more it costs when we go over this July 13th.
so these costs are included in the CAO's recommended budget, so we have not pulled them out of the budget. We just, so we have the budget, these costs are included in the budget. We are still just negotiating over the job descriptions.
Understood. My apologies. I was overthinking it.
Just to clarify, any requests made as related to the administrative office, this cost will be brought back for the discussion on the 13th of July. All of the other changes contemplated by this item or that we've discussed related to the July 13th item are already incorporated in the budget, as Judy states.
Understood. Any board questions or comments? Public comment?
I just have a quick question.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Garamendi, my apologies.
Just a real quick question, Ms. Hawkins. We now have 2 new unions. We just recognized, have we met and conferred with everybody? Are we good across the board with our labor?
So I do need to meet with our new management union over the reclassification request in the assessor's office to reclass the appraiser analyst to assistant assessor.
Right, but the stuff that's in front of us right now, we're kosher with everybody?
Yes. Everything in front of you, we have met and agreed on.
Thank you.
Further board questions? Public comment?
We do have one public comment, and they may make their comment now.
And here we are again. Somewhere in this, I remember, there was an assistant county administrative officer. Am I correct in that?
So that job description, we will be bringing that job description back. It was attached in error.
Miss Hawkins, we will wait till the public comment's finished and then we'll reply to the questions in total, please. That way you can be full-time, Mr. Stout.
Little Ben is flexing his muscle here. Come on, boys. Here we go. As far as opposition goes, I think it's important that you look ahead, look forward with opposition and add to it, since you have a Parks and Recs Commission and you are acquiring property that may come back to you, superintendent of Parks and Recreation. So Assistant Chief Administrative Officer dash Superintendent of Parks. Because right now, for an Assistant Administrative Officer, it's not beefy enough. It doesn't have enough oomph to it. So that would be very important to do, or not do it. I don't care. It's just the future of the county at stake. And let's face it, boards come and go. I'm always here. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no further public comment.
Thank you. Ms. Hawkins, my apologies for interrupting you. Please.
Oh, no, sorry, I jumped the gun there. So we had attached the job descriptions before we had worked everything out, and that one did not get deleted in time. And so we will be bringing the final assistant CAO job description before the board when we request the position on July 13th.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions by the board, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution making changes to the position control list and adopting the job descriptions effective July 3.
Do we have a second?
Second.
In the nick of time. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Sounds like it passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Was there something else you want to say, Ms. Callaway? No, okay. Just want to make sure, I don't want to miss out on that. This concludes the regular agenda, which will be back to the consent agenda here momentarily. I'm going to take a 10-minute break before we get back to the consent agenda. Thank you. Thank you. We are on the consent agenda. Items, as stated earlier, items 6 through 38 were pulled. So with that, I will entertain a motion on consent agenda items 3, 4, and 5.
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf.
Second.
Second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Consent agenda item 6, agreement, human services. Authorize the board chair to sign an agreement with Calaveras County Office of Education for the provision of the Independent Living Program, ILP, in an amount not to exceed $148,000 for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Assuming that no board member pulled this, public comment.
You can make your public comment now on this item.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. I did pull items, you're going to have to go back and look at the recording of the meeting because I did pull items 3, 4, and 5 as well. But here we go on item number 6. Authorize the board chair to, we should have the clerk read the item, which is common, but I will read the item for you. Agreement, Human Services, ID number 6149, authorize the board chair to sign an agreement with Calaveras County Office of Education for the provision of the Independent Living Program, LP, in an amount not to exceed $148,000 for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. I'd like to remind the board that we are a county that is impacted in certain ways and that this might not be enough money. Through 2022, that's short compared to some of the other agreements that you are signing in this consent agenda. Please take that into consideration. Shall we move to item 7? Would you please call that, Chair? Chair.
Actually, the board needs to obviously vote on that item before moving on.
We won't be moving to item 7 until we're done with 6.
Okay, finish number 6, please.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 7, agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program, ID number 6093. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement, Calaveras County Board of Office of Education, that's the one I read, right? And then not to exceed amount of $40,000 for foster youth mentoring services for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023. Board comments? I see none. Public comment.
Public comment, you may make your comments now.
Yeah. I have to unmute between items, it seems. So we'll go for this now. $40,000 for this item might not be enough. As you know, the youth are our future, and some of them are in need, especially the foster care system. I've dealt with people in the foster care system. I have a long relationship with a dependency attorney who handled children in the foster care system. And I have because of that, and because of my volunteer work, I have a deep connection with these people. As I said, $40,000 might be not be enough. If it's possible, give them whatever they ask. Thank you.
Any board comments to that? Thank you, Mr. Garamini. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 8, agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program, ID number 6094. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement with Calaveras County Office of Education, the not to exceed amount of $25,000 in support of services related to grandparent project for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Public comment.
Do I press *6 again, or can you?
You're there.
Okay, here we go. This is number 8. Okay. As you know, grandparents have picked up a lot of this slack due to problems in our society regarding heavy drug dependency, low income, and other ills that we have faced. Once again, I do volunteer work. I've had contact with these people, and I care deeply about them. $25,000 definitely is not enough. If the board can see fit to grant more when asked, I would support that. Thank you.
We'll entertain a motion.
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Garamindi. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 9, agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program. Authorize the board chair to execute agreement with Calaveras County Office of Education, the not to exceed amount of $10,500 for the LGBTQ youth support services for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Public comment.
Yes, on this item, $10,500. When I was in high school, it was, even though it was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and even though it was a more affluent high school, it was still kind of risque to come out. We were in the depths of the AIDS epidemic, and my best friend came out as gay his senior year. He faced problems with his parents. He had a girlfriend. she was none too pleased. And let me tell you that some of the best days of my life were with my best friend. That last summer we spent together. I am heterosexual, but I got to visit all the. I guess statute of limitations is over now. I got to visit all the gay clubs in San Francisco, and one of the little scams we would pull is that we'd get guys to buy us drinks and then disappear out the back door. It was wonderful fun, and still I have a great many friends in the lesbian gay community, transgender, everything else, and I value their friendship. This might not be enough money, $10,500. Whatever you can give them is much appreciated. And if they ask, give them more. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Garamindi, seconded by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement, Calaveras County Office of Education, and not to exceed amount of $50,000 for Calaveras Care Team, CCT, Navigator Services for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Public comment.
As some of you might know, my grandmother's brother, Beers, founded Mental Health America, and he wrote the definitive text of the time, the early 20th century on mental health. So occasionally I am called to service, and I feel very deeply for these people. Through the years, I've been exposed to a lot of people having mental health. $50,000, mere drop in the bucket. If you're called on if they ask for more and you're called on, please give more.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move. Second.
Motion by Ms. Fullendorf, a second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 11, agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program, ID 61019. Authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign the renewal application, certification agreement, and requirement forms for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Mental health block grant resulting in revenue in the amount of $176,000 or $176,220 for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Public comment.
I think this is wonderful. Substance abuse and mental health services are receiving a block grant. Yeah, I accept it with all my heart. Please do. Authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to sign this renewal application. They are doing a fantastic job. I'm just sorry they can't reach everybody. They need to reach into the boardroom. Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
So moved. Oh.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. Do we have a second by Mr. Toffenelli?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Are those opposed? Passing a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 12, agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program, ID number 6110. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement with Asha Brock, LMFT, for the provision of mental health services in amount not to exceed $100,000 for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Public comment.
I'm not familiar with Asha Brook, but I assume that behavioral health in their capacity. Is that so Alt's wife involved in that? Ex-wife or whatever it is? I do support this $100,000. Mental health is definitely something that we better pay more attention to in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 13, agreement, behavioral health services, mental health program, ID 6148. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement with Oakendale Incorporated for the provision of specialty mental health services in an amount not to exceed $500,000 over the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 to be utilized on an as needed basis. Public comment.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Oakendale, I believe, has done business with the county in the past and that wouldn't be here if they didn't do a good job. At $500,000, that is a bargain, considering what professionals charge these days for their services. Well, I'm at $300 an hour right now. So, with that, please, move on.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Move. Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf, for the motion. A second by Ms. Callaway. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 14, resolution, OES, ID number 6101. Adopt a resolution continuing a local state of emergency for the COVID-19 outbreak. Public comment.
As you know, COVID-19 is still with us. I haven't received my second vaccination yet. I do believe I have some access to it. I'm pretty, the last one really knocked me on my back end, the last vaccination. But we are still in an emergency here. This is something that has affected everybody. It's affected everybody's wallets. It's affected everybody's way of life. And we are continuing with this local state of emergency because we need to. And there's money involved in it as well. So with that, I'd like to move on.
Entertain a motion.
I'll move this item.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Callaway, a second by Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Item 15, resolution, OES, ID number 6102, adopt a resolution reaffirming the Director of Emergency Services proclamation of a local state of emergency for the winter storm damage from extreme weather events that began on or around February 12, 2019. Public comment.
Yes, I think the district that was most affected by this was Marita Callaway, Supervisor Marita Callaway's district. And of course, we're going to reaffirm the Director of Emergency Services proclamation. Marita is the best supervisor on that board. You know, I don't like that. I kind of like Dan Stopper. I don't know Amanda Fullendorf, and I don't really care for Jack Gary Mindy John Jr. And Gary is a good guy. He really is. And with most of you guys, I may disagree with you, but I do have some liking points. So don't even John Jr. So just move on to something.
Motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passing out 5-0 vote of the board. Item 16, resolution, OES, ID number 6103. Adopt a resolution continuing the local state of emergency for Butte Fire. Public comment.
Most definitely, there was a state of emergency there. During the Butte Fire, I evacuated 3 times, helped people evacuate when the Sheriff Department from El Dorado County, as you know, that's a DeAugustini. Love the DeAugustinis. Known them for a very long time. He sent some patrolmen over here, and they didn't know what they were supposed to do. They were on the other side of the fire, and so I helped with some direction. I made maps for them. Actually, I didn't make maps for them. I went and stole maps from the real estate office, and showed them where they could go to help notify people of the evacuation, and then provided a map of where to go when they were called to another location. At a later time, in the next agenda item, I'll discuss something that needs to be talked about. But let's go forward with this.
Motion?
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. A second?
Oh, second.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Item 17, resolution, OES, ID number 6104, adopt a resolution continuing.
Come on, slow down there, boy.
A local state of emergency for the removal of hazardous trees caused by the Butte Fire with the imminent threat of severe winter weather. Public comment.
Yes, of course, item 17, I think he read out there. I couldn't really discern some of the things he was saying. Let me move okay, adopt a resolution for local state emergency hazardous trees. As you know, we still have some hazardous trees around, and as you were updated earlier, that is still a ongoing problem. The Butte Fire, the people a group of people that really helped us during the Butte Fire, the residents of West Point, Wilseyville, Railroad Flat, and Glencoe, was the Rancheria. And the Rancheria provided evacuation site as well as food, lodging, and I got to know the Daltons very well during that time. One thing that I feel kind of shameful about is that I haven't brought before you is that they've never been recognized. They've never had an item on the agenda recognize them for what they've done for my community. So with that, I'd like you to consider that and move forward with this item.
Entertain a motion.
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 18, resolution, OES ID number 6105. Adopt a resolution continuing a local state of emergency for the winter storm damage from extreme weather events that began on January 7th, 2017 through the month of February 2017. Public comment.
I am unmuted. That storm affected me. I had to rebuild a lot of my road. Heavy downpours. I think it came right after a snowstorm, and even to this day, I'm still laying rock down in certain places and realigning certain sections of my very long driveway. Thank God for the people that go out and help other people. I didn't need any help, but other people did. They had their driveways washed away and were unable to get to their houses. With that, I'd like you to move this item. I'd like to vote on this item and move on to the next item.
I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 19, resolution, OES, adopt a resolution continuing a local state of emergency on tree mortality. Public comment.
Oh, did I miss one here? Which one are we on? Adopt a continuing local emergency on butte fire, tree mortality. As you know, that's still a problem in our community. You heard the item earlier today, or you heard in a briefing item earlier today, and you need to continue with this. With that, please let the chair say go through the process and don't vote too early on these items, because we have to go through process, always process. Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Item 20, agreement, integrated waste management, ID number 6119. Authorize the execution of a grazing lease agreement between the Calaveras County and Horit Cattle Company Incorporated for 735.76 acres of county-owned property adjacent to the Rock Creek Solid Waste Facility for a 4.5-year term effective June 22nd, 2021 through June 30th, 2025 with an annual revenue of $33,109.20. Public comment.
Yes, revenue is always great, but the revenue you are receiving here is a preventative measure when it comes to grassland fires. I've lived through several fires. The first time I saw grazing was right after the Oakland Hill fire, which I was there. I've been through earthquake fires. I've been through, I've been down south during hurricanes to help out, but I've lived through these things. So I wholeheartedly agree voting yay on this and moving on to the next item. Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Item 21, action item, economic and community development, ID number 6126. 1, accept the work of Staples Construction Company Incorporated for re-roofing projects located in historic downtown San Andreas at county-owned facilities. 2, authorize the board chair to sign and record the notice of completion, and 3, ratify the release of retained funds. Public comment.
Yes, I'm not sure which building this is, whether it's the old courthouse, what is it, the Historical Society building down there, whether it's the town hall, or maybe it's the a grand jury, which was dismissed, by the way. I don't wonder why. But evidently, it's the work is completed. Let's move on with this item.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second?
Second.
By Mr. Garamendi. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on 5-0 vote of the board. Item 22, action item. Economic and Community Development. Accept the work of T&S West Intermodal Maintenance Incorporated for the re-roofing project at the county-owned Hubry Building. 2, authorize the board chair to sign and record the notice of completion. And 3, ratify release of retained funds. Public comment.
Yeah, I actually like that building. There's not too much I can say about this, except evidently they did a good job. Let's move on with this item.
Entertain a motion.
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf. A second by Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 23, agreement, administrative office, ID number 6139. Authorize the board chair execute an agreement of public defender legal services with Fitzgerald, Alvarez, and Cuomo effective July 1st, 2021, and terminating on June 30th, 2023, in an amount not to exceed $1,249,956. Public comment.
Oh, more attorneys that I can borrow. Always look forward to that. Looking at this, $1,249,000. The amount might seem large to you, but it is not. Everybody's guaranteed a defense. Everybody's guaranteed a defense. Let's move on with this item.
Entertain a motion.
Move. Second.
A motion by Ms. Fullendorf, a second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 25, resolution, administrative office, ID number 6129. Adopt a resolution approving fiscal year 2021-22 recommended budget for the Air Pollution Control District. Public comment.
24, sir. Our budget.
Oh, my apologies. I did mark it off and I didn't read it yet. So item 24, I am going back to. Resolution, administrative office, approve the for year 2021-22 recommended budget. We can't forget that one. Public comment, Mr. Stoughton.
Well, yes, we can't forget that one. You have skipped other items as well in this, but I'm letting you slide today because I'm just a good guy. Slow down. I had plenty of time there. Administrative office, approved fiscal year. If you've gone through that budget, you'll realize that some of the numbers didn't add up, but I'm not kind of a little bit sloppy there, folks, but you have what you have. And, you gave yourself your raises. I hope you guys are really happy about that. Look at John Garamendi Jr. is probably wetting his pants in anticipation of the first check. What you should do is require him to buy each of you lunch. I'm not kidding about that. Require him to buy each of you lunch. I don't want him to buy me lunch. I'm fine. Okay, let's move on with this item.
Entertain a motion.
So
Thank you, Mr. Garamendi. A second by Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 25. Resolution, Administrative Office, ID number 6129. Adopt a resolution approving fiscal year 2021-22 recommended budget for the Air Pollution Control District. I got it right this time. Public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Stopper, Chair. I have a close friend with another Air Pollution Control District, so I know all the ins and outs of of getting what I want from them. In case you don't know, you must have 3 complaints before they act on anything. So just really keep that in your quiver. Keep that in your quiver. So of course they act immediately on when I do it. I have a really good relationship with these people. Let's move on to the next thing.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. A second by
Second.
Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 26, resolution, administrative office ID number 6130, adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain capital assets for year 2021 through 22. Public comment.
Well, we just hope Mr. Osborne doesn't have an old truck he wants to purchase again, or his truck needs to be fixed and he needs to replace it. Adopt a resolution and purchase of certain capital assets. I don't have the list in front of me right now. Evidently, this is something I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at carefully. So let's move on with it.
Entertain a motion.
Move.
Thank you, Ms. Fullendorf.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 27, resolution, administrative office ID number 6131, adopt a resolution approving for year 2021-22, recommend budget of 4 special districts governed by Board of Supervisors. Public comment.
Yes. Let me tell you a secret here. A lot of times these special districts have money. When we needed a sheriff's substation in West Point, we found that the budget of the West Point Cemetery District was flush with funds, and there are other districts as well, cemetery districts, because really all they do is spray Roundup. They don't have lawns to manicure, and so we tapped that budget. I say move forward with it, but you folks really should be looking carefully at those special districts and saying what you can translate, money you can translate, reappropriate into serving the public. Let's move on.
Entertain a motion.
Moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 28, resolution, administrative office, ID number 6132, adopt a resolution approving fiscal year 2021-22, recommend budget for special revenue funds. Public comment.
Here we go, special revenue funds. I'm just going to say adopt this because there's not much, let's say, meat there. Go for it.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 30, resolution, treasurer tax collector, ID number 6136, adopt a resolution for discharge of accountability for certain delinquent unsecured tax bills, incorporating unpaid personal property bills, mobile homes.
Can you do 29, please?
Oh, you got me again, Carl.
Yeah, I'm sorry there, little bit.
I'll go ahead and go back to 29 as I skipped it. I checked it off before I got to it. So resolution, administrative office, ID 6133, adopt a resolution approving for year 2021-22 recommended budget for the in-home supportive services public authority. We definitely don't want to forget about them. Public comment.
Well, definitely, I don't want to forget about them. It's quite vital. Yeah, if you can move forward with this, just move forward with it. I'm fine with this.
Motion.
Move.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Fullendorf, seconded by Callaway. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes out 5-0 vote of the board. Now to item 30. Resolution, treasurer tax collector, ID 6136. Adopt a resolution for discharge of accountability for certain delinquent unsecured tax bills incorporating unpaid personal property bills, mobile homes, and supplemental unsecured bills for fiscal years 2010 through 2011 through 2016, 2017. Public comment.
I think it's been 12 years since Barbara went in detail with me over this, and you know it's what it says it is. There's nothing controversial here. Let's move forward with this item.
A motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 31, agreement, district attorney, ID number 6137. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement with Carpal Computer Systems Incorporated for a 3-year term, July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024, in an amount not to exceed $52,575. Public comment.
As you know, that district attorney has other funding sources at times, and this $52,575 for computing services is necessary. They deal with confidential items, and they deal in a rapidly moving environment, so they don't need to be slowed down at all. Let's move forward with this. I agree with it.
Motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second?
Second.
Ms. Callaway, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 32, action item, treasurer tax collector, ID number 6138. 1, renew annual delegation of investment authority to the county treasurer, and 2, adopt county investment policy and guidelines for 2021 through 22. Public comment.
I'm just catching up with you here. As you know, if you've ever got a report from Barbara Sullivan regarding your investments, it's in good hands. And I wholeheartedly support renewing this. So go for it. Next item.
Motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. A second by Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? 5-0 vote of the board. Item 33, agreement, auditor controller, ID number 6145. Enter into professional services agreement with Clifton Larson Allen LLC for annual audit services to conduct examination of the comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR, and financial audit for Calaveras County for an amount not to exceed $197,385 for a term of 3 years for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2021, June 30th, 2022, and June 30th, 2023, with an option to renew for 2 additional years at $65,795 per year for an additional amount not to exceed $131,590, and authorize the county administrative officer to sign the agreement. Public comment.
Yes, you know, fiscal audits and performance audits. I was taught a lot about this by the auditor of Oakland, who a lovely lady, a few years ago. And one thing the county is in desperate need of is a performance audit to determine whether departments are meeting their goals, whether they're serving the public adequately. Every department should have that, and not just fiscal audits, but actual performance audits. Next item, please.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. Do we have a second? By Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes off 5-0 vote of the board. Item 34, ordinance. Integrated Waste Management, ID number 6147. 1, adopt an ordinance repealing ordinance 2510. 2, authorize summary publication of ordinance. Public comment.
Yes, I hate summary publications because I support newspapers. If the whole ordinance could be, it could be published, I'd really appreciate that. As you know, newspapers are heavily impacted by the change in the modern economy, and yeah, anything you can do to throw something their way is much appreciated. Next item, please.
Motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. A second by
Second.
Ms. Fullendorf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 35, action item. Economic and Community Development, ID number 6151. Authorize the board chair to sign a memorandum of understanding between Calaveras County and Golden State Finance Authority with a not-to-exceed funding amount of $25,000 for preparation of a broadband strategic plan, BSP, under the U.S. Economic Development and Administration Grant Program for a term that will remain in effect until preparation of the BSP. Public comment.
Yeah, so as you know, technology continues to change. And once you think you got a grasp on it, once you have those lines in the ground, all of a sudden it's in the air. And you need to keep, and the county needs to keep up with that. So of course I support this. Let's move forward to the next item.
Motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Ms. Callaway. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 36, ordinance. County Clerk, Recorder, and Registrar of Voters, ID number 6162. Adopt an ordinance adding Chapter 2.90, electronic filing of campaign disclosures, to the county code and authorize summary publication of the ordinance. Public comment.
As you know, I didn't have time earlier to comment on that publicly. But any impediment to democracy is an impediment to the freedom of every person. And while I don't support this, I understand this. Let's move on to the next item.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Toffenelli.
Second.
A second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 37, action item. Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, ID number 6111. Appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. Public comment.
Yeah, public comment is here. I'm glad that you're getting civic participation. If you want to know anything about anybody, please ask me. I keep files. So, and if I don't have information on them, I can usually ask somebody else to do what they know. So let's move on with this item.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A second by Ms. Callaway. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. Item 38, action item. County Council, ID number 6169. Ratify declaration of June 19th as a county holiday following passage of Juneteenth National Independence Day, making June 19th a federal holiday. Public comment.
You may not know, but I offered your chair 10 minutes on this item, and I would have foregone the rest of the consent agenda. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Juneteenth and why it was passed so quickly. And Juneteenth was forced upon the nation, rightfully so, as your ancestors forced the whip upon the black man's shoulders, forced yourself on their women, and currently forced the minimum wage upon them, keeping them in a state of slavery to this day. Juneteenth was forced upon you because they're saying no. I had first thought last year's Black Lives Matter. I had firsthand knowledge of, and first I was there. I was down in Marina del Rey, and I went over to Santa Monica. I saw the the looting and violence over there at some of the high-end stores and up in Beverly Hills, and the boarded up buildings along Pacific Avenue. Those were quite some nights listening to the sound of the sirens and going out and seeing what was happening in the streets. This is something that rightfully is forced upon you, and we're hopefully there to continue for people of color will continue forcing their rights upon you. So with that, I recommend ratifying this and realize that this makes in your bargaining units, this will be a holiday for them as well. Thank you. Let's move on with this.
A motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Callaway. Do we have a second, Mr. Toffenelli? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote of the board. That concludes our consent agenda. Let's move on to supervisor announcements. In compliance with Government Code 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on any meetings attended at the expense of the local agency and may make other announcements or report out. I'd like the board to consider, possible, I believe it would be a change in the board rules for how we move our board forward in the future, to have on hand in case someone abuses pulling items from certain consent agenda items. There's multiple counties across the state that do not allow public to pull consent agenda items. This is a privilege we continue to give, and I would like to continue to give to our public here in Calaveras County. But if in the future, if it's abused, maybe having it on hand for possible consideration to change the rules if it continues to be abused in the future. Are any board members interested in that? Ms. Fullendorf? Yes. Mr. Garamendi's a yes. I'm a yes. Ms. Callaway?
I'm not real clear what you're asking.
What I'm asking is to have something in hand, ready to change, I believe the board, it's in the board rules, Ms. Edwards? When it comes to...
Yes, I believe if what you're proposing would involve changing how we approach the consent agenda, we would likely need a change to the board procedures.
Okay, yeah, board procedures and rules. So I'm proposing to have that on hand if in the future the pulling of consent agenda items are abused.
I'm reluctant to change public input on consent agenda. I think what Mr. Stoughton did was an abuse of the system, but I'm not willing to necessarily change the rules because one person is inconsiderate of the process.
I understand your input. Mr. Toffenelli?
I'm in favor of allowing the board chair, whoever's chair at the time, to have the ability to limit that if they so choose. It's up to their discretion, much like running the meetings is within their discretion. So I would be in favor of placing that in the chair's discretion at the time of the meeting.
Right. I think that would still consider a change in procedures.
Yep.
But I think that's a better solve than what I was proposing. I do agree with Ms. Callaway. I would like to give the opportunity for public comment. It's rare that anything has ever been abused, and I was potentially putting this out in case it was abused in the future. But I think that you have a better solve than what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
I would agree with Mr. Toffenelli. He amended what I proposed. Ms. Fullendorf, yes. Mr. Garamendi, yes. I'm a yes. Ms. Callaway is a yes, and you're a yes.
So what I'll do then, Chair Stopper, is if you'll allow me to explore whether I think we need a procedural change to the board rules and or a change to our agenda language, and if we do need the former, then I will bring that back to the board.
Perfect. I really appreciate it, Ms. Edwards. With that, I'll ask Mr. Toffenelli, anything to report out?
I have nothing to report. this time, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Callaway?
I would like the board to know that on July 3, the Greater Arnold Business Association will be having a parade. It'll be a little short and sassy one, but we have CAL FIRE, the Forest Service, the Ebbets Pass Fire District, and 25 other entries into the parade. It'll be on Blagan Road, and I do have permission from the road department to close off Blagan Road for a few hours, but if you can, I would be very honored if you would show up.
It's on the 3rd?
On the 3rd, July 3.
Okay.
The
Mr.
third.
Toffenelli?
Yeah, I do, on that note that Marie brought up, and many people know, and I'm sure most of the board knows, there's a local band here that's played many venues. The band's name is Plan B, and they are scheduled to play Ironstone on July 4th on the big stage. So I just thought I'd throw it out there. I know those guys and enjoyed their music many times, but the local band on stage there is a pretty exciting thing at Ironstone.
And they're constituents of mine.
Jim's a Rotary member, so.
Rubbing elbows. All right. No, it's great to hear. It's been a long time since I heard of any type of event, so glad to hear it. Mr. Garamendi?
I'm good.
Ms. Fullendorf? With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.